Hello, welcome to the show. You're listening to Break the Business podcast, where we empower indie creators and have a good time along the way. Hi, I'm Ryan Carella. I'm not Ryan Carella. I am Zak Sloan. Ryan Carella's show has been hijacked. I have taken over for the week. I don't know if he's aware of this, but his sister and I have decided that this is our show now. So, welcome to Break the Business. We're going to have a great time tonight. We've got producer Lauren here with us, and we've got a fabulous guest, Teressa Mahoney, a dear friend of mine, a collaborator of mine, and somebody who got on this podcast with Ryan not realizing that her and I were good friends. So, Teressa, you're out there. I want to chat with you a little bit the whole show because Ryan can't tell us no. How you doing, Teressa Mahoney?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I cannot tell you how excited I was when I found out that you were going to be the host. I mean, I was also super excited to meet Ryan, but the fact that you're already my friend made it so awesome.
Let me tell the listeners out there what happened. Inside baseball, Ryan's actually on vacation. I haven't kidnapped him or something. And he asked if I'd be willing to host the whole show. He says, I've already got a great guest booked. She's fabulous. You're going to love her. Her name's Teressa Mahoney. And I said, Ryan, I can tell you don't listen to my records, because if you did, you would know that on my 2019 release, Your Honor, Teressa Mahoney is featured on the song we co-wrote, Reckless and Ready, and she did the photography for the album. Teressa is a singer-songwriter of many more talents than just that, and we're going to be talking about that in a little bit. Second piece of that story, Ryan was telling me this stuff at 1 a.m, proving his stories about staying up late and watching the Olympics were all true. Teressa, we got some things. We're going to do an interview with you in the second half of the show. But to start off, I'd like to start off with a little bit of indie music news and just a little thoughts. And I would love to get your take on a few things because you're an indie musician out there in the trenches right now. So I want to talk a little bit about COVID and the impact it's, I believe, going to be having on musicians yet again for maybe a second cycle. Do you have any intro thoughts about maybe some fears or concerns you have being an indie musician right now?
My first thought is, no! Like, we just got back. What?
That's my thought, too. I finally, for the first time in a long time, I've been gigging a little bit recently. We've started to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and then it's back. And I'm afraid these gigs are going to start evaporating. And so for a lot of musicians, and myself included, I was in this boat for a couple years. That's a primary source of income, right? Getting out there and playing shows. So what can these indie artists do who maybe need to be preparing ahead for those shows drying up? Do you have any thoughts about that, Teressa?
I do. I think that doing live streams, I mean, obviously we all kind of learned how to do that in 2020. And I think that's got to be where we have to be prepared to go back to.
Now this is Teressa poking the bear. All right, I interviewed Leonard Patterson a couple months ago, and he has a book about live stream ideas for indie artists, and I said I would start live streaming, and I'm having a really hard time getting into live streaming. But Teressa, you do it fairly regularly, am I right?
So, because I suck, I haven't been doing it lately, but I'm planning to start again because I have an album coming out at the end of this month. So I'm planning to do a weekly, like Tuesdays live kind of thing. But when I was doing that, when I was in the groove, it was actually really fun. And we had like regulars tuning in every week, and it was like back and forth. And it was not exactly like a live show, but still like some human interaction, which was really fantastic. And I think probably because I'm kind of an introvert, it's the reason why I haven't done it for the last like 6 months is because it's so hard to gear up and do it and like get all the equipment out and then like psych yourself up to be like ready to engage people and like really be fully on. Oh, it just sounds like so much work.
It is, and part of the reason I haven't done it is for those reasons. But one thing that I always try to remind myself, and I think a lot of artists maybe in a similar boat, it's hard to go play a show at a club too, right? I mean, you got to get there, you got to set up. It may be daunting to do it at home, but I feel like, and you're more of an authority than I, is it easier to do a live stream in the grand scheme of things compared to doing a show at a venue?
It just occurred to me while you were talking is the accountability. That's the thing. Because every Tuesday when it was time to go live, it'd be like an hour before, and I'd be like, probably nobody will notice if I don't do it tonight. Like I have like laundry to do, and I probably should make dinner, and nobody will notice. But it's like if you make a plan with a friend to go to the gym, or like if you sign up and pay for a yoga class, like you're gonna go because you're invested. It's kind of like how it is playing at a club. Like you can't just not show up, or like you won't get hired ever again. But like a live stream, you just have all that wiggle room. Like, yeah, there's TV on. I could just watch it. Like it's motivation.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because I think that's an interesting thing. I want to get to the nuts and bolts of it, the quick and easy live stream setup in a minute. But I want to talk about that accountability piece, and I'm going to talk a little bit about my friend Suze Polinsky a little bit later in our chat on a different topic. But that's something that Suze and I talked a lot about, was having accountability for yourself when you're doing these things, hustling, because as all of our creators out there know, whether you're making movies, whether you're producing plays, whether you're a musician, you got to hustle, you got to peddle your wares, you got to be out there playing. What are some ways that indie artists can be motivated to do these things in their apartments, in their homes, while combating the fact that at least for me, feels a little silly sometimes? Do you have thoughts
Yeah.
on how to motivate yourself?
I think like having, for me, what I noticed was after doing it for like 8 or 9 weeks in a row, it started to be like its own thing. Like it had its own life, and I was actually looking forward to interacting with the people. Kind of like I've never played a live show and been like, ugh, I wish I would have stayed home. It's always like there's really.
Oh yes.
Okay, I gotta hear about that. But like, there's always this energy in the room, and there's like people that you meet, and people talk to you, and you're like, this was so fun. This is why I do this. And I think it's like a slower start for live streaming. Like at first, it was like hard, like you're revving up a motor, like, but finally it'll just take off, and then you want to do it every week. That's what I experienced.
And I think kind of the crux of what we're talking about is that in the strong possibility that a lot of these gigs are going to go away, or depending on where you are, have already gone away, there needs to be something to fill that hole, to fill that income loss for these artists. And
Right.
live streams can be a great way to do it, but when you play a venue, sometimes you just get a check. And when you play a live stream, that's rarely the case.
Right.
Teresa, have you done anything with like setting up a virtual tip jar or anything like that?
Yeah, so I took this class from Michael Walker at Modern Musician. I'm still like in the process of taking the class, and he has got some really fantastic ideas about how to monetize live streams and how to monetize really everything. Like it's kind of all about making your investment back. So there's the tip jar, which I've had limited success with. I mean, sometimes people tip, but it's not really top of mind. Probably also because I really often forget to mention it. It feels like you're begging. Like, oh, please, I'm playing music here. Like, you wanna pay me? I'm gonna do it either way, but still, you wanna pay me? It's hard. It's hard for me to ask. But anyway, so there's that. But then also, because of this class I've taken with Modern Musician, I have a link that I have set up where people can like join my fan club, and if they join my fan club, they get a free CD, my brand new CD. It's not out yet, and all they have to pay for is shipping. So that helps to get people involved and engaged. And if they're willing to put like the $7 shipping or whatever towards it, they get like like some stickers, and I can't even remember what all is in the pack, but it's kind of cool. So those things, like if you can mention those often during the live stream, it could be a potential source of income where you don't feel so much like you're begging. You're like actually giving them something of value for their cash.
And that's a perfect segue, because not only is live streaming probably going to be part of, the musical experience again, but there's got to be other ways for artists to monetize their work. And I know it feels a little dirty, a little grimy sometimes to try to make money off of this, but I still feel that way, ladies and gentlemen out there. I still feel that way when I'm putting out a tip jar. But when it's your livelihood, you got to do it. And so I love what Teresa is talking about, having a fan club with significant benefits to it. Giving out CDs, giving out T-shirts. If those of you who can't see at home, I'm actually wearing a T-shirt of Teresa's from her first record.
I didn't even notice. I love it.
That's right.
You're so cool, Zach.
I'm the super fan who wears the shirt to the band they're about to go see. But finding things like fan club subscription or memberships or even subscription services. I've seen some bands recently having a subscription service through things like Patreon or Bandcamp, Patreon, where they are, hey, for $5 a month, you're going to get a Patreon-only song or something like that. Have you experimented anything with that, Teresa, or is that on your list eventually?
It's on my list because I don't know if do you use Bandzoogle for your website too, or is that, I think we've talked about Bandzoogle before.
I do.
Okay, so they have the subscription service that's built in now that like just comes with it. So I've actually started setting it up, but I haven't pulled the trigger and like made it live yet.
By the way, Bandzoogle, if you'd like to send us I'm just kidding. We are not sponsored. This is not not sponsored content. We're going to talk about how that works later.
But it could be Bandzoogle.
Hey, Bandzoogle, hit me up at Zak_Sloan on Twitter. So subscription services like that, merchandise bundles, and one thing I've been seeing, and I know Ryan's talked about this on the podcast. Heck, I've talked about this with Ryan. Creative merchandising options. People will still buy CDs from time to time. It may not always be top of mind, but I have seen some really creative merchandise from some bands I really like. For instance, I have seen cassettes that fold out into like USB drives that have music and things like that. Teresa, what's some of the most creative merchandise you've ever come up with?
I actually have those cassettes. That's kind of like my favorite thing, but I can't say that now.
That's who I was talking about.
Cool. I think those are so cool because they're so retro, and every time somebody sees them, they're like, "Okay, this is cool," because it's just like a CD, and then it folds out and it's USB drive. It's cool. But the other thing that I wanted to say that came to my mind while you were talking was there's this artist. I'm gonna have to look her up, and then can we put her in like the show notes or something? What, maybe?
Sure. I have no control of that. Lauren, our producer, is the one who handles that.
Lauren, she'll take care of that. But she emails musicians. I'm sure I'm not the only person who she's contacted, and she says, "Send me your old guitar strings, your old broken ones, and I will create jewelry out of them, and then you can sell the jewelry to your fans, and it's like your own old guitar strings." I thought that was a pretty cool idea.
And when you're a hack and slash guitar player like me, you break a lot of guitar strings. So that's just good sense.
You could have the best jewelry.
Maybe I just need to get some of that made myself. But we're going to talk about other things you've made in the second half of the show during your interview about your actual new record coming out, because I want to talk about some other stuff you've made. Cool. So the final thing I want to talk about this COVID situation is we're talking about live streaming. We're talking about merchandise options. Another thing that I think is worth mentioning, and a friend of mine, Ann Luna, who's a fabulous bass player for the Hard Road Trio, offers virtual lessons. She does virtual bass lessons. You can go and find her videos on YouTube. You can pay for lessons from her. And that's another source of income that I think some artists and musicians might want to consider during this time. But I have some words of caution. If you go out there and compete and set your price at below what you're worth, you will be asked to be paid less than what you're worth. It is tempting, especially if you're in dire straits, to say, I'm gonna do half-hour lessons for $5. I don't know if that's a great time investment. Now, that's up to everybody individually to determine, but just remember that you have value and figure out what your hourly rate is for you and set that. And, if you need to wiggle here and there, but make sure you're not selling yourself short, because what you do does have value. Teresa, you have any other ideas that maybe I've missed?
As far as generating income?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this service that Bandzoogle is attached to. I think it's called Printful, maybe. Yeah, I should research my names before I come on here. Sorry. But anyway, what I love about this is you can upload a design, and then people can order it on your website. And once they place the order on your website, it goes straight to that company, and they make one of the item and ship it to the customer. So like right now I have like 50 t-shirts in my possession that I had made for my upcoming record album. I'm old.
I say record. It's fine.
Anyway, but I love the idea. Probably for my next project, I'm just going to do the print on demand because it's a little bit less of a profit margin. However, I think it is actually a better deal in the long run because at the end of the day, I'm probably not going to sell 50 t-shirts. I'm going to have to like slash the prices on what I have left just to get rid of them, or just like give them to my friends and family for Christmas or something.
I think the print to demand thing is something that I first heard about from the CD Baby DIY podcast. Chris Robley was talking about it, and he said exactly what you discussed there, Teresa. That the profit margin might be thinner, but the odds of a loss are almost zero. And I think that's something to keep in mind. So
Well, he said that very much more efficiently than me. I'm going to try to use those kind of words next time.
I'm paraphrasing what he said. I just remember him talking about it. So speaking of other ways to make income, now I have my own beef with the streaming model and how musicians are paid via streams because it's not enough. And Europe is actually taking other steps to remedy that. Well, but that's not the topic of today's discussion. I want to talk about playlisting because playlisting can be a way to maybe gain a little bit of exposure, maybe make a little money if you're lucky. But it is a tool that artists need to be aware of. And CD Baby, I'm just referencing CD Baby all over the place. But that's how it goes sometimes. CD Baby just put out an article called 4 Tips for Getting Placed on Playlists. It's by Christina Kano. It came out just yesterday, and it actually had some advice that I really liked. And I was glad to see it come up because, Teresa, I know you've had some success getting on playlists yourself. Let's talk a little bit about some of these tips. And I think maybe you and I can kick around what we think of these tips. And so I'm just going to summarize briefly. You know what, Mary Amber? Okay, first of all, Teressa Mahoney, if you don't know Mary Amber, you need to. She's dope. She says, streaming and how they, air quotes, pay artists. Sorry, I think I misheard a word in the middle of that
Oh,
sentence.
That's funny. Yep,
She's
I think
absolutely
you did.
right. It is not a source of revenue, and that is part of the reason I wanted to segment it off and talk about playlisting separately. By the way, if you all on Twitch have not gone to Mary Amber's stream, you need to do that. She puts on one of the most professional style streams I have ever seen. She is very talented and hilarious. Go check out Mary Amber's stream, everybody out there. She's the best. And also go listen to some of her back interviews on Break the Business because she's just a wealth of knowledge. But the first thing that I think a lot of artists don't realize is that you need to ask for playlist placement. That it generally just doesn't fall out of the sky. Teresa, do you thumbs up or thumbs down on that advice? Do you think that it's good to ask? Oh, she says thumbs up. Okay.
Yeah, a little bit.
Why? What's been your experience with that?
Yeah, so I have a friend who has a playlist that's pretty heavily followed, and I had a couple songs that I thought would be good on it, so I just emailed her. Like, she's not like a friend like we go out and have lunch. She's a friend like I met her a couple times, and she's a professional musician. So I was kind of nervous to ask her, but I was like, I kind of think they would fit on your playlist. Like, no pressure, but like, like if okay, please. And so she put them both on there, and that is like the playlist that I've gotten the most streams out of like any playlist I've ever been on. So I think finding a playlist where your songs are a really good fit is huge, but also not to sound like it's all successes, because I have asked tons of other people too, and then I never hear back from them. So it does help if you know the person.
Teressa Mahoney, you have just segued so splendidly into point number 2. And this is where I'm going to come back and talk about Suze Polinsky, because when I first worked with Suze years ago, one thing that she did with me is she's like, Zach, when you're booking shows, you need a spreadsheet of every venue, contact information. Are they a good fit? Why are they a good fit? How much do they pay? Who is the person in charge? Who is every detail. And do your research. Don't pitch yourself to a metal club because that's not what you do. Tip 2 is do playlist research and keep track of it, right? And one thing that Teresa said there that I think is really helpful is she said, my music is a fit for your playlist, right? She's not emailing out into the ether. She's not scattershot guessing. She's saying, hey, my music is a fit because, and she was also very polite, would you please play this? But she's doing some work for the playlist curator. Because let's remember, a lot of these playlist curators are just fans. They're just people who love music, right? So treat them nicely, ask, and realize they're not getting paid. So make sure that you're making this worth their while. Teresa, you got anything you want to add to organization and actually, keeping track of who you're pitching to?
No, I just think that what you said is a fantastic idea, and I'm gonna start doing that.
Well, and hey, you know what? I am here to serve. And 2 and 3 kind of conflate with describing the playlist. So I actually want to go down to the last tip. And by the way, people, you need to read this article. This is a fantastic thing, top to bottom. But one thing that really I thought was interesting was searching for playlists, because it's not something a lot of people are very good. You think of maybe the release radar, you think of the daily mixes, you think of the stuff that is made for you, but there's a ton of playlists out there, and you just have to find them. So you can just do a search. You can do a Google search, right? Or you can use something called Chartmetric. Have you ever used Chartmetric, Teresa?
Yeah, I have. I used the free trial and I found it really helpful, but I found it like cost prohibitive to continue with it after that. I think it was like $100 a month or something.
Teressa Mahoney, it's like you're in my head. These types of cost benefit analysis, just like when I was talking about, making sure that you're charging appropriately for your time for lessons. Whenever you're doing these types of campaigns and things, keep in mind your budget. Keep in mind, that streaming is not, as Mary Amber said, you're not going to make your money back probably. So what are your goals when you're trying to get on these playlists? If it's to make money, I got bad news for you. That's probably not the best way to do it, right? There are other ways that we talked about in the first segment as far as how to make money. Being on a Spotify playlist is for a different purpose. It's usually for advertising, which some people say exposure. When people say you get paid in exposure, I always just get angry at that. So I think of this as paid advertising, and we'll get it. We're not talking about payola and all that stuff now. That's too much for today. But think of it as advertising. What is your advertising budget? And if you're not able to cover that $100 a month, or I know of some playlist services that charge way more than that, know what you're getting into and don't go into it blindly, because I think people can lose a lot of money very quickly. Teresa, you got anything to add on to that?
Yeah, that makes me think of one additional thing that we haven't discussed yet, and that is hiring a PR company. So I just recently hired Cyber PR, Ariel Hyatt's company, to promote my new album. So she's in the middle of it. She's gotten me like 90 features so far. Like, it's insane how well worth the money I'm finding it. And a lot of those things have been playlists. And for me, as someone who's like super busy, well, because I'm sure I'm the only one who's super busy in the world, but no, like for me, who finds it tedious to like look up playlists and then cross-reference who the playlist owner is and like try to find them on Facebook and like figure out a way to contact them, like all that stuff makes me want to bang my head against the wall. But like hiring Ariel with my budgeting money, with like my advertising budget, see, it was like the best choice. Absolutely the best choice.
A lot of times people confuse what Teresa's talking about with getting a manager. That is not what a manager does. What Teresa's talking about is, as she said, a PR firm. Trivia, Ariel Hyatt was my first interview here on Break the Business podcast.
What?
Yep, I love Ariel. Tell her I say hello. She's fabulous. But having a set budget, and if you have the budget for a PR firm, might not be a bad investment. Now, before we go to our commercial break, I need to bring on Lauren, the producer. Lauren, would you mind talking a little bit about this? There's something going on in the UK with a fringe fest. I don't know. What shirt are you wearing? I'm wearing a Teressa Mahoney shirt. What are you wearing?
This is what happens when we do pre-shows and you guys get to see what I'm wearing. I'm wearing a shirt from the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. It looks like the 2016 one with a big owl on it. I love the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and for anyone who hasn't made it out there, it is an arts experience like none other. I think there's something like 5,000 shows that happen over the month of August in this one city, and it's just taken over, and every street corner bar is turned into a venue. There's pop-ups everywhere. I've met so many bands and artists just walking from the theater shows I do, because Teresa, you haven't met me before, and I'm like the theater person in this group. And going from my shows there from one place to the other, I meet local bands. I've taken their cards. I found them other work. Like, there's such networking out there. That being said, COVID has shut that down like most things, and they're kind of sort of opening up this year, but they have a digital platform and it's open. And because of everything, you can register between now and the end of August and still do a show and whatever. But I think networking wise, it's worth it for any artist out there to look into what Ed Fringe is doing digitally, virtually. If you already have something put together, it might be something that you can put up there for other people to see, possibly get reviewed and get some networking access or whatever. Just my 2 cents. But when the world opens up again, head out to Edinburgh and try to see it in person. It's amazing.
Well, and it's what is Edfringe? I got it right here, edfringe.com. And if you do /take-part, but just go to edfringe.com. They actually have a way. Oh, look at this! It's the producer knows what she's doing. She's put the website up.
What?
It actually will walk you through how to take part in the Fringe Festival, which is wild. And Lauren pointed out something to me that I didn't realize. You can still sign up. So, Lauren, you can sign up through the rest of August. Am I right on that?
Yep, you can sign up through the end of August, and they have their own Fringe player. So whereas when you're in Edinburgh, you normally have to have a venue to perform in, you can basically create it yourself and put yourself up for a much lower cost than normal, and without having to pay to stay in Edinburgh.
Which the plane tickets alone might be a bit much. So this is an awesome opportunity for those who are interested. Lauren, thank you so much for putting this on my radar because I had somehow missed it. I see Teresa taking notes on this right now.
I'm putting it in my phone right now while we're talking.
So this is really cool. And plus, I got to tell you, this website's pretty fun just to look at.
So much fun. And just even if you're not trying to put your material up, go and watch the other performers. There are so many shows, artists that have put their material up, and go out and support them. A lot of them are pay what you want shows or free shows. Just get out there and see stuff because you can.
It's fabulous.
Right, I'm hopping off. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Lauren. You are the best.
Aww.
So before we take our first break and then come back and interview the fantastic Teressa Mahoney, who you may have heard of, Teressa, I want to ask you about a little bit of pop culture. All right. What is the music that you are, I'm not going to say ashamed, but, maybe you listen to on the DL. You don't tell everybody you love this band or artist. I'm not saying these bands are bad. And I'm going to start off to take the pressure off of you. I love the band Hanson. I do.
It's like a guilty pleasure.
Well, you know what? I don't even say guilty because everybody knows bop, blah, blah, blah. But what people don't know is they've been putting out great records for 20 years and that they are fabulous songwriters. And I have seen them in concert in the past 10 years, and I was the only guy in the venue. And you know what? If I was single, that would have been cooler. But my wife was there, so, she was just like, I know why you want to be here. But I love the band Hanson. And I think they are wildly underappreciated. So there's mine, right? If I can admit to Bop being in my top, okay, that's not really my favorite song, but Hanson being a top 100 band for me. What bands do you have out there that you just maybe people don't realize?
Yeah, I have been listening to Ed Sheeran like every day for like a month.
Now, Mary Amber, if you're still out there, Ed Sheeran gets paid from Spotify.
Yeah,
he gets a large percentage of Spotify, but that's
probably from me streaming his songs. But I incorporated a couple of his songs into my live show because I do covers sometimes when I'm at I do covers every time when I'm playing at like a restaurant bar. I do my own stuff too.
Hold that thought. Pat Cat Amber says Hanson is their favorite band.
What?
I don't know if I'm being trolled. I hope not. But Pat Cat Amber, thank you.
You found a kindred spirit.
Look at Pat Cat. Let's connect. He just says or Pat Cat Amber says Zach knows his stuff. Ooh, my ego almost doesn't fit in this room as it is. Thank you, Pat Cat. You made me so excited I interrupted Teressa. Teressa, you're talking about playing Ed Sheeran songs.
Yeah, no. So I always thought, I heard about him because I also really like Taylor Swift. And like two pop icons, which you would think like in the indie world, you would be like, oh no, we only do indie music. But no, I love Taylor Swift and I love Ed Sheeran both. And I got so much respect for Ed once I started trying to play his songs and sing them. His range is pretty amazing.
So there's nothing wrong with talking about your love of Taylor Swift, by the way, because Ryan and I had a running bit for a while where we talked about Taylor Swift every time we were on the show together. I love Taylor Swift. I think Ed Sheeran is incredibly talented as well. But my real point about this is, why is it that some of these bands are deemed, the guilty pleasures, the dirty little secrets, almost taboo in some way. Why is it that even musicians, who generally we try to be respectful and care about what other artists do, why do we feel this way? Where does that sense of shame even come from?
I don't know. It's like, do you remember like Debbie Gibson and like Tiffany from like the 80s? Like they
I
both
remember Tiffany well.
They got like that, right? Like they were super popular and everybody loved them, and then suddenly they were, I guess, canceled is the right word, and then like you couldn't like them anymore. I don't know how that happens or why it happens or why we all participate.
And why is it? Because the example that comes to mind for me is actually Britney Spears. When she first came out, the most successful, I remember very vividly when she broke, huge success. Everybody loved her. She was the biggest pop star on the planet. Then suddenly she's hated. Nobody likes it's almost a joke to like Britney Spears. But now Britney Spears has sort of come back around where people are in love with her music, in love with her story. Maybe not in love with her story, but supportive of her in her story. And it's interesting to see through the lens of just the casual observer and who happens to be a musician, this cycle that she has gone through. And I was wondering, can you think of any other, and I'm putting you on the spot, any other artists who have ridden that cycle all the way around? Loved, guilty pleasure, back around.
No? I'm thinking, like that are like cool again.
Yeah.
I gotta keep thinking about that one. But I wonder if it has to do with like the tabloids and like paparazzi and like the stories that they break, to get a headline that suddenly turns the tide.
I can't think of it, and I think you answered my question in that I can't think of anybody else. But if you're in the Twitch chat or even online, if you listen to the podcast later, tweet at me. I'm at Zak_Sloan, and Teresa's at Teressa Mahoney, right? Mm-hmm. Tweet at us and tell us if you think of somebody. We want to know, because this is something that I think is interesting, and just from a casual observer perspective, I would like to know a little bit more about. All right, Teressa, it's time to talk about something that well, actually, I'm very happy to talk about this. I don't know where I'm good at. Can we talk about your music?
Sure.
I've been saying that we're going to take a commercial break, and Lauren has told me we're not taking a commercial break this week, that I just get time with you. So I want to talk about Disillusions. Will you give us a little background on this?
Yeah. So in the last few years, I've sort of like changed a lot of my worldview, and I kind of became awake to a lot of the things that I had accepted as normal, because that was like the water that I grew up swimming in, having to do with like religion and spirituality and like gender issues. And so many of these issues like rocked my world once I like looked at them in black and white and was like, what? That's what I've been participating in my whole life. I don't want to participate in that. I don't want to be a part of that. I want to do what I feel like is the right way now, with my eyes wide open, rather than just what I grew up being told was the right way. It's clear as mud.
Actually, you got to something I'm interested in, because on your website, teressamahoney.com, I was going through your press kit and I found a quote that I really like. You said, it says, this album is my bravest musical expression. In the last 5 years, I've learned some powerful lessons. I was raised with particular convictions, but I've looked outside that bubble and seen how other people are affected by that thinking. I felt like I was betraying people staying with those beliefs, so I began questioning everything. Wow. That sounds like a lot has changed for you, and how has that affected your music because you write your own songs? How's that affect your writing?
I think writing like very honest songs about literal situations that happened has helped me to become a better songwriter. That and my producer Lori Chaffer, who like went over every song with a fine-tooth comb to like make it right. And to find the exact word that means exactly what you want to say, that also rhymes or fits in the rhythm. I guess I learned to just keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing until it's right, which I didn't know to do before this album.
Yes, it's a hard thing to put in the time to find that word or that syllable, or maybe we need to restructure this line to make this other part more powerful.
And it's like a big puzzle because you change this and then you have to change this and then no longer the bridge doesn't work anymore. And so like it's all interlocking.
Well, and what's interesting to me about songwriting is not just the puzzle, but there are those moments where it's like lightning in a bottle. It's amazing, but that's, let's be honest, not the large percentage of the time. A lot of the times you're struggling, or that's me. How does it work for you?
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot of pushing through. Like there's always I don't sit down to write a song until I have like a 85% clear idea of what the song is, like what it's about, what the idea is, what I want to say with the song. But that last 15% is a killer. It's so hard.
Well, and one of the things that I wanted to talk to you was about, you were talking about some of the areas of or some topics from your new record, and one of them being embodiment. Can you
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about that from this perspective of this new album you've got coming out?
Yeah, I read a book called Burnout. Would love to have the author's name right at the tip of my tongue right now. Sorry, Burnout authors. It's two sisters, and they're amazing. But one of the things I learned from that book was, it brought into perspective the way that our culture disses the body. Like you walk into a bathroom at any middle school, high school, and some girl says, "Oh, I hate my hair," and the next girl's like, "Oh, I hate my nose," and the next girl's like, "I'm fat," and then they look over at you like, "What do you hate about your body?"
Yeah,
and you
what's
have to
wrong
say
with
something,
you?
right? Like you have to say something, and then you combine that with like airbrushed images that we see on, all the visual imagery that we see everywhere we look, and all the plastic surgery that people have, and like there's a moving target, first of all, of what's acceptable to look like, but then on top of that, the messages that we see all come together to say what your body looks like isn't good. There's something wrong with it. It's not whatever the adjective you want to put in there, there's something wrong with your body. And after reading that book, and then I also attended a virtual conference during COVID called The Sacred Feminine, and it was amazing, by Lisa Gungor, and a few other people put that on, and it just kept occurring to me like over and over and over again, like this body that I have, I refer to her as she now instead of it. I don't say my body, it's cold. I say she's cold. She has carried me through my whole life. The only impulses and things that she's ever tried to message me with were always for my good. And the way that I repaid her for that kindness was saying mean things about her. Like, for example, I would always tell people I am so clumsy. Like, my body is just so clumsy. I could fall off a chair. Like, I literally have fallen off a chair while sitting before. But what I realized one day when I was doing paddleboard yoga was that when I focus, like, I can do these intricate yoga poses without falling into the water. So if my mind is focused, then my body is not clumsy. So to call my body clumsy is disrespectful. And it's actually a situation where it's user error. It's not my body's fault. It was that I wasn't focusing. Does that make sense?
That makes incredible sense. It's the same thing when I get mad at my computer, even though it's doing what I told it to do, and it's just doing the wrong thing, right?
Totally.
But speaking of she, I like how you talked about you call your body she. I believe you had a song titled "She" that you wanted to play for us.
Surprisingly, I actually do.
Wait, can you talk a little bit about it while you grab your guitar?
Yeah. So I just wrote this song in the wake of kind of realizing how much my body is kind to me and how little kindness I've paid her back. And it's just sort of like an ode to my body. And I hope that other people will hear this song and feel like their body is a treasure and beautiful and wonderful, no matter what it looks like, no matter if it conforms to the ideal, body image that we see everywhere. The fact is, your body's on your side. Your body tells you messages that you need to listen to. Like, have you ever had a pit in your stomach where something was wrong? That's a message your body's giving you. And there are so many other messages that you can hear once you start listening. So yeah, That's what this song's about.
Teressa Mahoney, take it away.
All right. Turning up the reverb on my mic now. Should be all echoey. Is it echoey? All right, here we go. Here's she. Okay, sorry. Microphone cord. All right, we can't do it that way. Okay. Technical difficulties. Here we go. I salute the sun and feel her power. On her back, my skin reflects the heat. She moves with grace between the hours. Her hands, her calves, her feet. I reach her arms above my head and lean into the light. She leads me to the truth if I will let her. We're on the same side. Into the day she carries me, kind and brave, and I believe she's pure, wise, and worthy. I am her and she is me. Ooh, oh. I hear her now, she has so many things to say, and every curve carries her kindness. There's beauty in her tears, her strength, her smile, her gentle way. These things are timeless. Into the day she carries me, kind and brave, and I believe she's pure, wise, and worthy. I am her and she is me. Ooh, oh. Sometimes I can see her, she's a wild Mustang. She tosses back her mane, she kicks up her feet. Oh, she will not be tamed, she's running free. I salute the sun and feel her power. On her back, my skin reflects the heat. She moves with grace between the hours. I am her and she is me.
All right, give it up for Teressa Mahoney. You getting love from Mary Amber out there.
Thank you, Mary Amber.
Teressa, I love that song. That is... Oh, she says, woo! All the applause. Really, that is a beautiful song. I love... You play with melodies in ways that are just very pleasing to the ear, and I really enjoy it every time I get to hear you.
Thank you so much.
Now, I'm going to pitch another song out there. You guys need to listen to her song, Hey Honey, too, because that song's dope.
Thanks, Ion Jams. I saw that comment.
Yeah, and Ion Jams, I tried to reply to you in the Twitch chat earlier, and I locked myself out by mistake. So thank you for saying my album was great. Teressa, we've talked about some heavy topics. We've talked about some, intricate topics. I want to close off our last couple of minutes together by asking about Hawaii, surfing, and your almost untimely demise.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So I went to Hawaii, and I took my daughter there. I do photography, as we discussed earlier, and she's a senior in high school, so I took her there for senior pictures. My former business partner, Kendra Landry, who is we opened up a studio together a long time ago. She told me when her kids got older, she was going to let them pick wherever they wanted to go for their senior pictures. And I was like, that is such a fantastic idea. I'm totally doing that. So anyway, Madeline, of course, picks Hawaii. And so I told Kendra, I'm like, Kendra, I did your idea. I took my kids somewhere special for the senior pictures. And she was like, I said that? I don't remember saying that. Okay, well, thanks anyway for the idea. So anyway, we were in Hawaii. We decided to try surfing. My brother and sister-in-law were there. And the sister-in-law, grew up part of the time in Hawaii, so she knew how to surf. And so she's like, I'm going to book this surf instructor, and then we're going to go to this beach where there's great waves, and let's go surfing. And I was like, okay, let's do it. I'm in Hawaii. I've got better surf. So then she calls me back, and she's like, okay, actually, the surfing instructor is very expensive, so we're just going to rent boards, but it'll be fine. And I was like, sure, it'll be fine. So we go out to this beach, and it's like a rock beach, made out of lava, so there's no sand. It's like scary, pokey rocks. Like, it hurts your feet to get out to the part where you have to start surfing. So I should have thought about that, because when you catch a wave, what happens?
You eat it.
Well, you go into the shore, right? So
apparently you're more controlled on a surfboard than I am.
Okay. Well, ideally, theoretically, if you catch it, it takes you towards the shore. And then what happens? Anyway, I didn't think it all the way through. So we all got injured. My sister-in-law got a big, huge bruise on her leg and a gash on her face. And I lost Maddie for a while, my daughter. She went under and got tumbled. I got tumbled a couple times. But the time that I almost died was, this was a surfer instruction beach. So there's a whole bunch of little groups of instructors and new surfers. So there was this one wave coming. And I was tired. I was like, I'm going in now. I'm ready to go in because this is crazy. And we've almost already died 4 times so far. And so I'm heading in, and I look back, and there's this giant wave coming, and there's 8 people 15 feet behind me trying to catch that wave. Now, I don't want to catch this wave. I'm trying to go in. But those people all want to catch it. So I took one look back at them, and I was like, they are all about to run into me as soon as they catch this wave. So I closed my eyes and hung onto my board, and I was like, this is where I die. Okay, this is it. And I just closed my eyes and waited for the wave to hit me and all those people to crash into me. And then, suddenly I was riding a wave, and I, peeked open one eye and then the other eye, and there was, water hitting me in the face, but I still wanted to watch it because I was on top of this wave, and I just rode it, and I rode it for, 20 or 30 seconds. It was insanity, and I caught the wave, and I didn't die, and it was, amazing.
That sounds like a metaphor for life. So am I right to assume that you watched the surfing during the Olympics with great interest?
I'm sorry, I did not. I need a little time to recover from my experience before I'm ready for that.
Okay. Teressa, that's fantastic. And one other thing I want to talk about with you. I mentioned at the beginning of the show that you're a woman of many talents. Singer, songwriter, surfer, soap maker. Tell us a little bit about your soap.
Oh yeah, so I make soap. I started making it when my youngest kid was born because he turned pink when I used Johnson & Johnson or all of the baby products made him pink because he had an allergy or he couldn't do sodium lauryl sulfate, which as it turns out is in everything because it makes bubbles. So I learned how to make soap, and actually did soap as one of the gifts, packages you could buy when I did my Kickstarter for this album. So at least half of the people who backed my Kickstarter for this album, Delusions, have homemade soap and lotion and stuff in their houses now that they got. Which, now that I'm thinking of it, that's another way to make money as a musician. Is if you have something else that you can make and sell it, package it with your music.
And I've tried Teressa's soap. When she put out her first record, I was in the band for the album release party, and as part of a gift she gave me was this shirt I'm wearing, and then some fabulous soap. All right, we have time for one more part of the story, or one more short segment before the show is over, Teressa. And at the beginning of the show, I had said that I had a gig that I didn't want to be at.
Yes.
And I have
need
been
to
wanting
hear
to
the story.
I've been wanting to share this story since I started on the podcast. And Ryan and I have always, I'm not saying that he was against it. I'm just saying that he's not here, so he can't stop me. I spent years playing in the Texas music scene, and I was in a band, and we were a straight-up hard rock blues out, think somewhere between, Guns N' Roses and Arrows, somewhere in that genre. Out of the blue, our manager, and we did not need to have a manager, we weren't big enough, that was not money well spent, calls us and says, hey, the Drifters want you to open for them. Do you know who the Drifters are?
No, but it sounds like a big deal.
Motown era,
okay. Oh, yeah,
R&B.
yeah. No, I've heard of them before. Totally.
Yes. I believe they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It made no sense. I'm opening tomorrow for a band called Dear Marcia, and that makes sense for me to open for them. Our music is similar. That band opening for the Drifters was stupid. But it's the Drifters. I'm excited. So we play our set. Nobody.
Wait, sorry, I would try to get this in my mind. Okay, so the Drifters are 60s-ish, 70s-ish?
Yeah, early 60s.
Okay.
Maybe even earlier than that, actually, now that I think about it.
So the person who comes to see them, when they hear you, are going to be
We used to open with, Hendrix's Voodoo Child. We got up in front and we're playing, and I was so excited, and I was I had tried to meet the Drifters before the show, and I was told, no, they can't. You can't meet them. I'm like, oh, well, they're old, right? They're 1,000 years old at this point. They're probably just too tired. So I play. The crowd is unresponsive. Just nobody cares about us. But I get on the side of the stage. I'm so excited, and I see the Drifters come out. And my first thought, Teresa, was, those guys look too young to be the Drifters.
Oh.
And I'm looking at it. It's not making sense. Why am I this blues band? But I'm 21, Teresa. I am ready to be a rock star. I will do whatever it takes. They get out there. They play a great show. This band was fabulous, right? They just looked a little young. After the show, they say, Zach, we want your band to open for us for 2 weeks worth of dates while we play West Texas and all this area.
Wow.
Heck
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Sign me up. Even though I know in my head it makes no sense. We play our next gig in Amarillo, Texas. We pull up, there is line around the block. The local oldie station has been promoting it. Boom, we get up there, we play Voodoo Child. 4 people care that time. We're supposed to go to Albuquerque, New Mexico next, but at the last second, the manager of the Drifters says, hey, we're doing a second show in Amarillo. And I'm like, heck yeah, we are. This place was just sold out. Let's do it again. Let's run this thing back. Here's the problem, Teresa. Nobody had advertised that show. So, night 2, we go on stage. It is just an empty bar. Not a soul. Nobody knew we were going to be there. I go out back, and I'm looking at the tour bus. And I asked my bandmate, I go, hey, how do you spell Drifters? They were Driftors. They were not the actual Drifters. They were impersonators, and they had fooled everybody. And the way we got paid was in bootlegged CDs that had photocopy album covers, and we never got our money. Those were some gigs I wish I was never a part of.
Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining Teressa Mahoney and I on the Break the Business podcast. Thank you to our fabulous producer, Lauren, for stepping in and helping us out in the middle. This was far too much fun. Everybody out there, you guys be good, take care of yourselves, and take care of those indie creators in your
Don't
world.
forget your final question.
Oh, look at this. I have a Post-it, and I skipped it.
I know. Okay.
Teresa, do you have any last tips for those indie creators out there?
Yes. Don't give up. That's it. Don't give up. Just keep doing it. I mean that.
Holy crap. She has a tattoo that says that, ladies and gentlemen, if you can't see it. Teresa, you are fabulous. Lauren, you are extra fabulous. Y'all take care of yourselves out there. Be good to yourself.
Thank you so much.
Be good to your
so
bodies.
Awesome talking to you. Yes. Be good to your bodies.
Teresa, it's good to see you. I can't wait to see you soon. Peace.
Same.
Bye.